honor, valor, courage, commitment, sacrifice. These words are more than words to the men and women who have served in the armed forces of the United States of America during its 240-year history. These words not only describe, but define their service to our great country. It's because of their commitment and sacrifice, as well as a deep love of country and liberty, that we are able to enjoy the freedoms we enjoy today. These freedoms have come at a great cost. For some, the ultimate cost. The Donelson Fellowship has been honored to be able to say thank you to these heroes from our history, beginning with a memorable tribute to the greatest generation, those men and women who fought in World War II, to the valiant soldiers of the Korean War, to the sometimes forgotten soldiers of the Vietnam War. We have given honor to whom honor is due. This year, we pay tribute to another special group of individuals. These servicemen and women have served in the decades following Vietnam to today. These soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines have not only protected the freedoms of the citizens of the United States, but have courageously served to protect and in some places make possible the freedoms those citizens did not possess beforehand. Tonight, we hear the stories of 3 such men from the Donelson Fellowship, and we pay honor to all those who have served. It is to you we say, thank you for your service.
My name is Jeff Walker. I was a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, and I retired after 20 years in 2014.
My name is Mike Jones, and I was an infantry officer with the rank of captain in the United States Army.
My name is Loren Bailey. I joined the United States Army, and I served with the United States Army from June 16th, 1999 until May 3rd, 2009. I decided to volunteer to serve my country because of my family's penchant for serving in the United States military, all branches, Navy, Marines, Army, and Air Force as well.
I grew up with my dad being in the Army as an infantry officer, so I grew up in the late 70s through the 80s in the big military buildup of the Reagan years, so I got to watch my dad come and go. I got to go to the ranges with him, ride on all the big equipment, stuff like that. So it's just the culture I grew up in, and it's what I wanted to do the entire time that I was a child. So I'd go out with all my friends, and we'd all play war in the backyards, and all of our dads were Vietnam vets as well as career military guys. So.
Well, basically, I'd always wanted to be in the military. Even as a young kid, I would always play Army with the neighbor kids, and it was just something that I knew that I wanted to do.
I actually chose to go to a unit that was deploying to Bosnia, and after I went to all my Ranger school and airborne school and all those, I actually joined the unit when it was in Bosnia, so my first assignment was as an infantry guy. It wasn't really a combat zone the way later deployments were, which were real hot zones. This one was truly back in the mid-90s when they were all more termed as peacekeeping assignments. So you'd go, you'd keep the two sides apart more than anything else. But it was the thing that opened my eyes most was my first true view of genocide, because in that war you literally had whole generations of men that were just killed.
My first deployment was actually Kosovo, directly to the place in the Balkan states where we were having a little bit of an issue with Christian and Muslim kind of animosity between the two. We went as a buffer to prevent people from doing things they shouldn't and trying to give them a bit of peace in their lives. After Kosovo, came back to the States, and of course everything kind of kicked off with September 11th. I was actually plugging in my TV to the news at my duty desk so my NCO could actually watch the news that morning. And I got a front row seat to watch it be replayed on the news.
Literally, within 30 minutes, my cell phone started to ring. And it was a general recall where they were trying to get a lot of the officers and folks back to at least start looking into what was going on, and it never changed from that point. So I knew at that point that it was a different world we were going to live in, and we were ready to go.
And that's pretty much when everything shifted from let's train to kind of have friendly competitions, things like that, to this is now settling into everyone's mind. We are training for life and death situations, and we're going to have to start training harder.
So it was literally just over 2 months after that happened that we started moving units into Pakistan. And then from there, we moved into Afghanistan. So I actually didn't go until January, but we first started moving some of the first soldiers in late November to kind of stage folks to get ready to move everybody in.
I saw 9/11 as our Pearl Harbor, and it was an attack on us, and I wanted to do my part. I really started thinking a lot about wanting to re-enlist, and I was talking to my wife, Leanne, about it. And then in 2003 is when I re-enlisted, and I was deployed to Iraq in 2004.
So literally we moved to an attack position just south of the border with Iraq and Kuwait, and we dug foxholes, sat ourselves in. They were actually shooting Scud missiles at us for that entire day. So pretty much every couple hours we'd have to stop, throw on all of our chemical gears. You could actually hear the air raid sirens would go off, and then the Patriot missiles would go off. Right around probably 2 o'clock in the morning, probably the clearest sky you can ever imagine because you're out in the desert, there's no lights. You could see the aircraft flying over, the bombers and fighters going into Iraq, and you could hear them as they were flying over. And then probably 30 minutes after that, all the cruise missiles came right over our position. I mean, I didn't even try to count. I mean, it seemed like it was hundreds of them just shrieking over because they actually fly pretty low. They only fly about 300-400 feet off the ground, and they just kept coming across right over our positions, headed into Iraq. And then an hour after that, that's when the artillery started hitting those. Everything else previously was going deep into Iraq, but when the artillery started, they were shooting just across the border. So then you could hear the boom, 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 both of it firing and then it landing not too far away from us. So that was my experience, literally my first experience to the war at that point in time.
I was along the Pakistani border, and we stopped a guy that had a young boy with him. And after talking to the boy and searching the man, we found a picture of another young boy that had, it was like a Olin Mills type picture, but the backdrop was a picture of the Twin Towers behind him in the picture. And the boy was going to be used as a suicide bomber, and he didn't want to do it. But he was being forced to do it because of his family back in Pakistan had sold him to this man. So we were able to rescue him, and that made it worthwhile. Out of everything else, all the other stuff we did, that made it worthwhile. You see the father with his kid walking down the street, and they're smiling, they're happy. Even in a combat zone, they knew that this was going to be a good future for their children, and we were a part of that.
For me, the biggest seminal moment, the biggest, most profound moment was knowing that even though a lot of us were hurt and very seriously hurt, every single one of my guys came home alive. Every single one.
There's always a phrase that I kind of fell back on as wisdom from one of my first NCOs I worked with. He'd always told me, these are the best, worst days of your life. You'll always look back on these as great moments, but at the time that you'll be in them, they'll be the worst moments of your life.
I'm Jeff Walker. I served in the United States Marine Corps. I'm no hero, but I served with many of them. I love my country, and I would do it again if I was asked to.
I'm Mike Jones. I spent 8 years serving the United States military with combat deployments in Afghanistan and Iraq. I was wounded in Iraq, and I wouldn't trade a single moment of the time I spent overseas fighting for this country, both the good and the bad, because I love this country that much.
I'm Philip Loren Bailey. I served in the Army as a sergeant from 1999 to 2009. I did 10 tours, and with that, I've come to appreciate and understand and love that I was able to honor my country with my service. And if I could do it again, I'd do it in a heartbeat.